Hi everybody, and welcome to another week of Makers Monday. I am Anastasia Radloff, aka a Stampa Blondie, and we're doing things a little bit differently today. Now earlier this morning I tried to go live on my Facebook page and YouTube, but unfortunately I'm still learning the ins and outs of my internet here in Korea, so instead we are going to be doing a recorded video this week. Now this week I'll be featuring 3 projects from the Fluffy Squirrel bundle from the September through December mini catalog. Before we get started though, let's go ahead and swap the camera, and I just have a couple of things to go over before we get started. So the first thing is, during the month of September, Stampin' Up! Is running their best ever starter kit promotion. So what exactly does that mean? Normally, when you join Stampin' Up!, you receive $125 worth of products for $99. Now, during the month of October, you can choose $125 of your choice of any products for only $35. That is an amazing deal. Now, if you want to up your product amount, you can get $189 worth of products for $99. So your choice of any products, there's no requirement to teach classes, host events, do Facebook Lives, or sell any products to your friends or family. So I love being a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. I've been a demonstrator next month. It'll be 15 years. And I signed up during a starter kit special in November of 2010. So the 2 different offers that Stampin' Up! Has, just to recap, you can do $125 worth of products for $35, or you can do $189 worth of products for $99. So your choice. There's no difference in the starter kits that you get. You get free shipping, you get free business supplies, a package of Stampin' Up! Catalogs. You don't have to use the business supplies, of course. And a free paper pumpkin kit is included in there as well. So if you have any questions about being a demonstrator, what does it mean to be a demonstrator, or anything about the Stampin' Blondie team, please reach out to me, send me a message. I am more than happy to answer any questions you may have about being a demonstrator. Like I said, I love it. I have been a demonstrator almost 15 years, and I just love the friendships and creativities that Stampin' Up! Has brought to me. All right. So today's projects, like I mentioned, we are going to be featuring the Fluffy Squirrel bundle. Now this bundle from the Holiday Mini Catalog is on page 49 and is a punch bundle. So the Fluffy Squirrel stamp set, it's photopolymer, meaning completely see-through and clear. You can see exactly where you're stamping. It comes with 12 stamps, 3 sentiments, and then the rest are images. And the bundle includes the Fluffy Squirrel Builder Punch, which we're going to be using here today. Now, this bundle can be purchased together, stamp set and punch, for a 10% discount, or you can purchase just the stamp set or the punch individually. Now, anybody that places an order from to the end of this week will receive these class projects to go. I will send you the class kit pieces. Now, no stamped images will be provided due to Stampin' Up! Rules, but you'll receive cardstock designer series paper to put these projects together. Now, yesterday on my website, Facebook, Instagram, all the goodies, I posted this project. I showed how I created this squirrel to be just a little bit fluffy, so let's kind of bring it a little closer if I can. I used embossing paste on his stomach to make it look like it had a little fluff to it. Now, because I pre-colored in the image, it did distort the color a little bit, so I just took my Stampin' Blends marker and recolored over those areas. Now, on here, I used the Gathering Together Designer Series paper, and I'll be using this on all of my projects here today as well. But I wanted to show you how beautiful this Designer Series paper is. Now, this is a specialty paper, which means one side, this side here, is just plain designer series paper. It doesn't have any kind of shine or shimmer to it, But if you flip the paper over, all of this side, these sides of the papers have gold foiling on them. So kind of hard to see on the camera. I'll kind of tilt it back and forth and you can see the shimmer catch the light there. But this is the Gather Together Designer Series paper. This is what I'll be using on all of the projects here today. Now for our projects, like I mentioned, we'll be creating 3 projects today, 2 cards and 1 3D project. So here is one of our cards we'll be creating. Let me make sure I get that into frame for you guys there. This is a really fun, easy project to put together no matter what your skill level is. I love the punny sentiments that go along this. The go nuts, it's your birthday, super cute. And then this one here, may you gather happiness. We have some embossing with the Gathering Leaves embossing folder. And then I'm going to show you how to do this fun little ink technique down here as well. And then our last project is that 3D project here. So we're going to create this little box that says Go Nuts, It's Your Birthday. And then I have these like berry nut mixes, individual packages, and they fit right inside here. Now I found these, I think, at like my local grocery store, but you can find them wherever. And you don't even have to use a nut mix, like trail mix. You can use like cashews or almonds, just whatever kind of nuts that you want in there. And they don't have to be prepackaged. You can package it yourself. But the best thing is that this comes out and that you can use this as a little holder. Let's see, do cards even fit in there? Oh, a card fits as well. So they can use this as a card holder after the fact too. So let's go ahead and get started on our projects today. The first one we're going to work on is this one here, the Go Nuts, It's Your Birthday. So let's move these out of the way. Now, don't forget on my website, stampinblondie.com, each week I post this project listing. So it has all the item names, numbers, and prices of the supplies that I used for each project here today. And then don't forget there is a backside so you can see all the supplies that I use. And you can place that order and get the supplies, cardstock pieces, designer series paper embellishments for these projects, plus that 4th bonus project as well this week. All right. So for this card here, we are using a piece of basic beige cardstock, 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4. So your basic card size here. And I have 4 pieces of that designer series paper. These are 1 inch by 3 inch, and then a piece of crumb cake cardstock. So the first thing we are going to do is we're going to glue down our strips of designer series paper. And what I like to do is before I glue anything down, I just like to place them on my cardstock here just to make sure that everything is spaced out really well and easy to kind of put together here. So see, if I had just glued these down, they would have been way too far apart. And there we go. Okay, so I have my 4 pieces of paper down, and I'm going to be using multi-purpose liquid glue to glue these down. This gives me a few minutes to kind of shift and shimmy my paper, get it exactly where I want it before I move on to the next piece. So this Gather Together Designer Series paper is actually part of a different suite. This Fluffy Squirrel bundle does not have any coordinating designer series product paper to go with it. So I just pulled paper from a different suite that had a fall theme to it, and this works perfectly with that there. All right, and our last piece here, we're going to glue right at the top. There we go. Now, on our sample card here, we have these little stamped acorns, and that is also in basic beige ink, so tone on tone stamping. And we're just going to take our little acorn stamp and then kind of go up the side here with our basic beige. So when you first stamp with basic beige, if you haven't used it before, it does have kind of a green tone to it, but as it dries, it lightens up and looks more like that basic beige tone. So if you get a basic beige ink pad and you start stamping with it and you're like, man, that looks really green, just give it a few minutes or seconds to dry and it'll turn to that tone that you want it to be. So you can see the difference here, how this one looks a lot darker than this one. So as it dries, it'll lighten up and turn to that basic beige color. Okay, so our acorns are stamped here. And we're gonna move on to our squirrel. Now, in this stamp set, there are 2 different squirrels. Only one of them fits with the punch. So this right here is the one that we're gonna be working with that goes with the punch. So let's get that guy out. We'll be using both of the squirrels on our cards here today, but I just wanna make sure I get the right one. Actually, no, this one we're gonna stamp. This one does not coordinate with the punch. This one is the one we're gonna have to fussy cut out. So I just have a spare piece of very vanilla cardstock, and I'm gonna be using Early Espresso ink for the outline of our squirrel. Now, because normally we use basic tuxedo black ink when we use Stampin' Blends, I didn't want my squirrel to be that dark, so I used Early Espresso ink. Now, when you use Early Espresso with Stampin' Blends, you definitely just want to make sure that you don't go too close to the line too long, because it will feather your stamped image. Now, I'll be using the Dark and Light Pecan Pie Stampin' Blends markers. And because we're using Stampin' Blends, we want to make sure that our workspace is covered. So I've got my spare piece of grid paper here that we'll be using. Now on our sample here, you can see I colored in the tummy of the squirrel dark. So that will be our dark pecan pie here. And I'm actually going to use the smaller tip. I feel like I get better control when I'm working with these smaller areas with the, not the brush end, but like the bullet tip here. So there we go. We've got our dark colored in. And then the outline, the rest of him is going to be light pecan pie. So we're just going to quick color him in here. Now, normally with Stampin' Blends, you can do like light and dark shading and highlights. But for this little guy, we're just using the markers as individual 2 different colors to be able to create that dark and light image there. So color in here. He's very easy to color in, so you don't have to be a perfect artist to color him in. Very simple to do. And with these Stampin' Blends, they're easy to color in as well, even as a regular marker and not highlights, lowlights. All right, there we go, super simple. Now, like I mentioned, we are going to fussy cut this guy out because normally we would use the punch, but I want to show how you can use this in more than just one way. So we're going to cut him out. He's very easy to fussy cut out too. You don't have to worry about lots of little small edges to cut around here. He's very rounded, so it's very simple to fussy cut out. Now, some of you may not like fussy cutting and you just want to use the punch squirrel the whole time. That's easy too to do. And you just have your squirrel facing the opposite direction. So this squirrel faces one way, and then the punched out squirrel faces the opposite direction so that they can kind of look at each other like I did in my project yesterday. But this one is just really easy to hand cut out too. All right, and there. And throw our little pieces away, and we can get rid of our grid paper for the minute. Okay, so you can see our pieces of acorns here have dried up, so they are definitely lighter than what they were before. We're gonna stamp our sentiment, and it says, "Go nuts, it's your birthday." And we're gonna stamp that in pecan pie ink right in the middle of this piece of crumb cake cardstock. So right there. Okay, close that up. And we're gonna glue this into the middle of that piece of designer series paper right here. So you still get to see that designer series paper, but then you have your sentiment piece there as well. Let's bring that a little lower so you can see. Okay, on the back of our squirrel, we're gonna add Stampin' Dimensionals to pop it up. Here, come on. Doesn't want to come off. There we go. And this is gonna go right there. We're gonna use some of this is the new black and white and gold twine, and we're gonna use the white and gold twine just to give a little accent. It coordinates with the designer series paper here. Just one piece. Normally I like to double my twine up and tie 2 pieces together, but I didn't want it to be too overwhelming. I just wanted it to kind of accent that gold designer series paper, so not too much. And once you have your bow tied to the size you want, you're going to take your 2 tails and cut that off. I'm going to use a mini glue dot to glue this down. Mini glue dots are the best way to add your twine because you don't have to worry about getting too much liquid glue on your project. So I've got that glued there. And then as the final touch, I'm gonna come in, these are the new streaked dots embellishments, and we're gonna add 2 to the upper right corner. They come in 2 different sizes. We have small and large, and I'm using 2 of the small sizes here to glue these right in the upper corner. I like to use the spatula end of my Take Your Pick tool to pick those up. And there is our first project today, featuring the Fluffy Squirrel bundle. We've got the designer series paper here, the white and gold twine, and the streak dots. Really simple and easy to put together, so no matter what skill level you are, you can do this. And I love that punny sentiment with the squirrel. Such a fun little guy there. All right, moving on to our next project, we're gonna do this one here, May You Gather Happiness. And I mentioned I was gonna show you how to do that fun little technique there at the bottom. Now for this card, we have a piece of crumb cake cardstock, 4 1/4 by 11. So this is an easel card. We've got it going sideways there that you can see. So we're going to use our bone folder here to crisp up our lines. Make sure that's nice and flat. Now I also have a piece of crumb cake cardstock. I've pre-embossed it with the Gathering Leaves embossing folder. Look how giant this embossing folder is. I love this because if you are embossing multiple pieces at once, you can lay them in here side by side and do 2 pieces. So it really cuts down on that embossing time. Now the Gathering Leaves is part of that Gather Together bundle with that designer series paper. But instead, again, I pulled from other suites to be able to use with this product that doesn't have any coordinating items to go with it. So here is what it looks like pre-embossed. And when I use embossed pieces of paper, I definitely like to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. It gets in those creases and crevices of that embossed piece of paper and really helps it adhere down to the cardstock even better. Okay. And we have a piece of that Gather Together designer series paper. You can see it's got that gold leafing to it. And we're gonna glue that down right across the middle of our paper here. Right there. And we're gonna set this off to the side. I am gonna put an ink pad on top of that just to help that paper really adhere to each other. Now I've pre-die cut piece of Very Vanilla cardstock using the Everyday Arches dies. And what we're gonna do is we are gonna take clear block H. So this has no stamps on it. And we are going to use, oh, I need to grab it, Crumb Cake ink. There we go. Crumb Cake ink pad. And I'm just gonna take my grid paper and fold it over because I don't need that large of a piece of grid paper right now. And so we have our piece of Very Vanilla, and we're gonna take our ink pad and just take the clear block with nothing, no stamps on it here, and we're just going to dip it in our ink pad. This is gonna give us a fun little design on here. Now I just wanna make sure there's no bubbles in it as I stamp. There we go. And we're just gonna stamp this. Let me make sure I'm in camera. We're gonna stamp this kind of at the bottom half of our paper there. Now this is gonna give us kind of a fun textured look to the bottom of our arch. So it's not so plain, it just gives it a little something extra. And we're gonna let that dry a little bit, and I am going to clean this block up before I get ink everywhere. So that's just a fun, different way to use your clear blocks without just using them for stamps. So then you have this fun little inky design on here. Now you could take Stampin' Blends and kind of splatter reds and yellows to make it look like fall leaves, but I thought that looked really cool at the bottom there as well. We're gonna take the stamp set comes with this little stump stamp. So we're gonna take that with some early espresso ink, and we're gonna stamp that directly onto our arch here in the corner. And we're also going to stamp 3 of the acorns stacked on top of each other. Now where did I put that stamp at? We've got our stump, there it is, acorn right here. And we're gonna stamp 3 of those stacked on top of each other, and then 1 on a spare piece of Very Vanilla. So here's our first one, our second, and then third, and then a spare piece of Very Vanilla. We're just gonna stamp 1 more, and this is what the squirrel is gonna hold in his hand. Now on that same piece of Very Vanilla, we are gonna take the other squirrel stamp, because this one we're gonna use with the punch. So the guy facing towards the right, that you only see one of his hands, that is the one that coordinates with the punch. And we're just gonna stamp that. And before we punch these out, we're gonna color them in with our Stampin' Blends. Same Stampin' Blends that we used on our last project, dark and light pecan pie. So we're gonna start with the dark, and we're gonna color in the tops of these acorns, all 4 of them. And using 2 colors is really easy because you don't have to think about swapping a million different colors back and forth to be able to put these together. Our stump is gonna go with the light pecan. There we go. And then the bottoms of our acorns are gonna be light as well. Here. Now our squirrel, we're gonna color in all the light, him all with light pecan pie. Again, just like the last one, he's very easy to color in too. And then this one, we are gonna do some light and dark highlights on him just to make him pop a little bit. Okay, and then the tail, very easy to color in. There we go. And there's our light. Now we're going to take that dark marker, come in, and we're just going to do some highlighting on here. So around the tail, the inside of the tail, around the top of the tail, down his back, and around the leg to kind of make that pop, and then the arm right there. And that's all we're going to do for the highlighting. So you can see the different light and dark variations on him right there. Okay, we're gonna take our punch now, punch out. First, I'm gonna punch out this little acorn down here. And with these little pieces, I like to flip my punch upside down. Okay, why isn't it punching? What is going on? I won't, there. There we go, it was just stuck. So we're gonna punch our acorn out first. What is going on? Why won't it punch? It was working yesterday. There, does that work? Let's see. Sometimes they get like little pieces of paper stuck in them and they don't like to punch all the way. If there's, there we go. If there was like a little piece of paper, maybe there was something stuck that I couldn't see. And then our squirrel on the other side. So you don't want to stamp your acorn and your squirrel too close to each other because it could cut one piece off. All right, and there we go. There must have been something stuck in there. Make sure there's not this time. Okay, before we add on our squirrel, we're gonna stamp our sentiment on here. And this is, may you gather happiness. And that's gonna be early espresso. It's gonna be in the upper right corner of our little arch piece here. So right there. And now we can glue this all together and add our squirrel. So our arch is gonna go on with liquid glue. And then our squirrel is gonna be popped up with Stampin' Dimensionals. We're gonna add that there. Stick that on. Stampin' Dimensionals for our squirrel. He's really easy with Stampin' Dimensionals. Just 3, and that'll be plenty. And he's gonna sit right on top of that little stump. And then our little acorn that he's gonna hold, I'm gonna add just a dab of liquid glue to his hand and put that right there. You want to add the glue to the hand rather than the back of the acorn, because if you add the glue to the back of the acorn, you could accidentally add too much. It oozes out and then it could stick to the paper. All right, we're going to come back in with those, what were these called? Something dots. I have the thing around here somewhere. I don't know. Oh, street dots. And we're going to do 3 of the small ones again. We're gonna add 2 here, and then 1 down here. And that is our second project featuring the Fluffy Squirrel stamp set and bundle. So I really like this one with the embossed background, this fun little deckled bottom here, and then the gold from the designer series paper really pops. And no matter how you cut your designer series paper, it's gonna look a little different each time. So that really makes it fun there. So that is our second project today. All right, our third and last project. This is probably my favorite one that we're gonna create today. This little to-go box that is perfect for gifting. So we're just gonna put the box there. I'll put this bag off to the side and we will work with that separately. Okay, for this project, you need a piece of early espresso cardstock, 5.5 by 7.5. And what we're gonna do is, I'm just gonna move this off to the side. I'm gonna use my scoreboard for this. So let's bring that in. So on the scoreboard, you have your long edge of the cardstock and your short edge. So on the long side, you're gonna score at 1.5 and at 6. We're going to flip our box around, and on the short side, we're gonna score at 2 and 3.5. So this is what your box will look like before you cut it apart. All right, now we are going to take our box, and these scored lines that are on the short side here, we are gonna take our scissors and cut right towards the first score line. So you're creating tabs here. Now this box is super simple to put together. So even if you're a beginner crafter, I think you could put this project together. It's very simple, no matter your skill level, to put it together. Now when I'm creating boxes, so now we have these little tabs in the middle that stick up. When I create boxes like this, I like to cut little notches in those tabs. It really kind of helps the box go together a little bit smoother when you have these little notches cut out in the middle tab. So it doesn't matter what width or whatever they are, just little notches cut out will help it come together a little bit easier. All right, let's throw all those in the bin. Now, when you make this box, you want to determine which side is the front. So this right here will be the front of my box, and I have 2 pieces of designer series paper that I'm going to use, and the here, put that there so you can see. The front of our box, I have a piece of die cut crushed curry cardstock using the Nested Essentials dies. So I've pre-die cut that. And then the 2 pieces of designer series paper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna glue, you can use whichever side of the paper you want. I wanted to find one where it was more of a neutral pattern and then kind of like a funky pattern on the bottom. So we are gonna add this here to that. And it just layers right on top of each other. And then this we're gonna glue to what we are gonna consider to be the front of our box. Now, I like to glue it down first before I assemble the rest of the box. It's just a little bit easier to make sure it's really on there secure when it's flat than when it's all popped up and put together like this. Okay, now we're gonna assemble our box. So we have all of these score lines, and we're just gonna fold on the score lines. I like to use my bone folder to really crisp up those lines. This will be the bottom of our box here. And then you also want to use those score line tabs and fold all of those in as well. Okay. Now you can use 2 different adhesives to put this box together. You can use tear and tape, or you can use multi-purpose liquid glue. Tear and tape is easier, so we are going to use tear and tape. And you don't run the risk of getting glue everywhere. So to assemble the box, here's our front. I'm gonna add a little bit of tear and tape adhesive to this first tab here. And your take your pick tool is great for getting that adhesive backing off. Now this tab is gonna tuck under, and you're just going to line that up and make sure it's straight. And then this outside tab is gonna go inside. So this last tab is gonna go inside. So it'll be a square tab, the one that we have the notches, and then square tab on the inside. So we're gonna add tear and tape to that as well. So peel off the backing here, and then this gets tucked inside. Now I like to take my bone folder and just kind of rub the inside of the box just to make sure all that adhesive is put together. So same thing on this side. Our first tab, we're gonna add tear and tape to the notched tab, and that's gonna go on the inside of that first square tab. Okay, come on. Here we go. So tuck that one in. And then this top notch, we're gonna add a piece of tear and tape to that, and that'll get tucked in as well. So this one's a little more trickier because half of your box is already assembled, but it'll still tuck in very easily there. Pull off that. And then here's that tricky part. Just kind of gently tuck that in and make sure everything's flush. And there's the outside of your box. Okay, again, bone folder, kind of push that in there just to make sure everything is really adhered together. All right, we're gonna work on decorating now. So we have that die cut piece of crushed curry cardstock, and we're going to stamp it with our sentiment that says, "Go nuts, it's your birthday." So we're going to clean off our stamp here, and we're going to use, this time I'm going to use Cajun Craze ink. This will really help our tie in our designer series paper. So whatever color designer series paper you choose for yours, just kind of tie in your cardstock and your sentiment area here. So I went with the crushed curry because it matches the lines on our designer series paper there as well. Okay, we're gonna come in with a spare piece of Very Vanilla cardstock, and we're gonna stamp our squirrel. Now this is the squirrel that does not have the coordinating punch, so we're gonna have to fussy cut it out again. It's, like I said earlier, very easy to fussy cut, so I wasn't too worried about that. So we're gonna stamp our squirrel and then also our acorn, because he's gonna hold an acorn too. So right there, close that up, and grid paper, because we're gonna color it in, and still the same two colors. Now this time I'm not gonna color in the chest of the squirrel. We're just gonna use the light pecan pie and color in the outside of the squirrel and leave his chest area very vanilla. So it kind of looks like that fluffy chest that I did on that first project I showcased. We just aren't adding any of the texture paste to it. Right, this little leg. And the tail. Very easy, like I mentioned, to color it in, and this whole thing is very simple to color because it's not a lot of pieces there. Okay, our acorn, we are gonna do the light and dark. So we have the light bottom here, and then the top is the dark. Here we go. Now, the acorn, I am going to punch that out, but first I want to cut out my squirrel just in case he gets in the way of when we punch this out. So I'm definitely not going to fussy cut that little acorn out if I don't have to. There we go. Put that off to the side. Here's our little acorn piece. We don't want that to go missing. And then just a quick fussy cut on this guy for him to be popped up as well. So rounded. Now with fussy cutting, you can get as detailed or not as you'd like. I like to leave a little white edge around mine, kind of like it was almost die cut. Some people prefer to cut right on the stamped line. I just like to leave a little bit of white around my edge, but it's however you prefer to do your fussy cutting. Now I'm just doing a quick cut on here. You can really take your time fussy cutting and get a more even look, but I like to hold my scissors steady and then turn my paper. That gives me a better fussy cutting turn on there. Okay, and now we can assemble. So our sentiment piece is gonna go on with dimensionals. Now I'm only adding dimensionals to the bottom half of the piece because the top sticks out a little bit from the box. So we don't want to add dimensionals to the top of it because it'll get sticky. So this will go on here. And I lined up the edge of my sentiment piece to be right in the middle of that little accent piece that I added to my designer series paper. Our squirrel is also gonna go on with dimensionals here. And it's gonna go on this side right there. And then just like that last project, we're gonna add the little acorn, but we're gonna add glue to his hand and then put the little acorn in his hand. So you don't want too much glue oozing out there. Now I used, this is the new irregular weave trim for the top of the bag. And I just had, I think it was, they're these gusseted bags. I think they're like 6 by 8. Stampin' Up! Used to sell these, but you can find them actually at your local hobby store, mainly in like the cake decorating area. They have like treat bags and stuff. So this is a gusseted bag. That's the one thing you want. You want it to open up and have kind of like that bottom to it. Like I said, these are the berry nutty mixes. I just got these at my local grocery store, but you could fill this up with cashews, peanuts, any kind of trail mix would work. And then this fits right in here to create this really fun kind of gift box. And if you wanted to add that card in there to them as well, it fits right in on the back side there. So I hope you liked the projects for today. Thank you everybody for joining me for Makers Monday. A little bit differently here today. We had some internet issues earlier, so we have a pre-recorded video for you today, but it's still Makers Monday. Now, as a reminder, no Makers Monday next week because it is Columbus Day or Indigenous Peoples Day. I'll be traveling here in South Korea next weekend, but I look forward to coming to you hopefully live, fingers crossed, in 2 weeks for another version of Makers Monday. And until then, have an amazing week and I will see you next time. Bye!